Good afternoon and welcome to La Tonta International Airport, which services Noumea and acts as the international gateway to the French overseas territory of New Caledonia. Today is a very exciting day as I'm now returning to Australia after being 6 weeks abroad, travelling around New Zealand and also New Caledonia. Today we're hopping on a rather unique flight which takes us from New Caledonia to Australia in just over 2 hours and is a once per week service operated by Qantas. So it's quite an infrequent service between Noumea and Brisbane. And we'll be flying in Qantas's business class on their Boeing 737 product. So without further ado, let's jump in the terminal, get checked in and get ready for our flight to Queensland. Unfortunately, it's been a bit rushed this afternoon, a bit of a mishap actually with my shuttle transfer originally didn't arrive, so they had to rebook it at the last minute. So unfortunately I've got to the airport over an hour later than I had hoped so. So it's a little bit rushed this afternoon, but once I've got to the airport, any concerns I had about making check-in were quickly allayed. It's really quite quiet here this afternoon. Check-in is really quiet and it's an absolute looking like it's a breeze to get through. Unfortunately, due to arriving at the airport so late this afternoon, I haven't been able to take as much footage as I like, and so I do apologise for my commentary being a little bit out of sync as we progress through Noumea Airport. As I'm flying business class today, it's great to know that I'm going to have lounge access, although unfortunately due to my late arrival I'm probably only going to have about half an hour to spend in the lounge. With so few flights from New Caledonia to Australia, it's really no surprise that Qantas does not operate its own lounge at this airport, but fear not, as they have access to Air Calen's Hibiscus Lounge for their business class and other eligible Qantas passengers departing out of Noumea. The Air Calen Lounge here at Noumea is one of the more unique lounges I've visited. It's very small and likely could probably only accommodate around 50 people. However, it's really unlikely ever going to have more than 1 or 2 outgoing flights at a time that we'll be servicing. On this occasion, there's probably less than 10 passengers in the lounge and probably less than 50 in the terminal itself. Air Calen's lounge offers quite a strange juxtaposition really, with quite limited food options, mainly consisting of snacks and such as crisps and cup noodles, but it has real French champagne on offer. So yeah, you could expect the food options here to be saying similar to kind of like a regional airport, you know, what you'd get at a Qantas club or a regional express lounge back home. But yet you got champagne, so which you would only really expect in like a first class international lounge. So really quite a interesting juxtaposition here. But yeah, otherwise Air Calen's lounge is really comfortable. It's got quite a small but good assortment of various seating arrangements, while one of the best parts of the lounge is its really great elevated views of the tarmac and also the small passenger departure areas below. Now that we've stopped by the lounge for a flying visit and a quick glass of some pretty decent French champagne, without further ado, our flight has arrived from Brisbane and it's now time to start boarding. So let's head to the gate and fly back to Australia in what should be a really pleasant and leisurely flight over the Pacific to Brisbane, Queensland this Saturday afternoon. Today's flight was on a typical Boeing 737-800, which is the same workhorse behind most of Qantas's jet services between Australia's capital cities. Today I was seated in seat 3F, which was one of the few remaining seats left that I selected online, free of charge prior to checking in. Row 3 in business class has no bulkhead for the economy class cabin. The seat offers fairly generous recline, but be mindful that it does intrude on the space of the passengers seated behind. which in this case, it backs straight onto the economy cabin. Qantas's business class seats on the 737 come equipped with comfortable leather recliner seats with a generous 94 centimetre or 37-inch seat pitch and up to 56 centimetres or 22-inch width between the arms. Whilst they're more than adequate and perfectly comfortable for daytime trips across the Qantas domestic Trans-Tasman and the short-haul international airport network, they're far inferior to Qantas's A330-121 domestic business class cabin. Today's flight was operated by a Brisbane-based crew who seem to generally be enjoying their unique Saturday afternoon flying schedule, which would take them technically all the way to France and back within the course of an afternoon. Something you really wouldn't think would be the case for an Australian airline, which is located close to 24 hours from the mainland of France itself. But anyway, unlike a prior domestic flight between Perth and Sydney several weeks earlier, pre-departure service got off to a better and frankly more expected start. Pre-departure drinks were offered with a choice of either sparkling water or the nondescript champagne. Without further ado, we're now well and truly on our way to the runway, ready to take off for Brisbane. So what better time now to just sit back, relax and enjoy the scenery of our spectacular ascent out of Noumea and cruising out over the Pacific Ocean. Service began approximately half an hour after takeoff, with the crew coming around to personally take post-departure drink orders. I was for a beer, which Little Creatures Pacific Ale and the James Squire 150 lashes were on offer. I chose the stir-fry with pepper oyster sauce for the meal service, which was somewhere between a late lunch or early dinner, and it was pretty tasty and came accompanied by sourdough bread and dessert, which was helped washed down by another tasty Little Creatures beer. All in all, the meal served was reasonably tasty and well portioned, in line with what I'd expect, although I'd be inclined to compare it to Qantas's Trans-Tasman and domestic business class service. During the remaining few hours of the flight, the crew did several rounds, offering several red and white wines on offer, although for anything else, passengers largely had to ask the crew, who were happy to oblige, do well to remember the customer's preferred drink. Overall, the cabin crew were professional and service was really good and exceeded that of past Qantas flights I'd taken in business. Unlike several previous domestic flights on Qantas, this Boeing 737 did come equipped with seat back or in-armrest IFE for business class passengers. Like the flights I took on Qantas several weeks prior, unfortunately I found the screens to be a bit old and a bit small. They didn't have the greatest responsiveness, and reflectiveness from the sunlight outside made it a little bit hard to easily view the content. For this reason, I didn't bother using the IFE, aside from viewing the moving map, and focused more on enjoying the business class service and simply the views outside the window instead. Unfortunately, this flight did not come equipped with or activated with the usual free Wi-Fi for browsing the web, which is available on a large amount of Qantas's domestic fleet. As far as we are aware, in-flight Wi-Fi, even if installed on the aircraft, is not available on Qantas's international services. For those who rely on good entertainment to get through a longer flight, I would recommend bringing your own device loaded with content, just in case you don't fancy Qantas's limited offering. It's been little over 2 hours since taking off from Noumea, and believe it or not, the massive Australian continent is nearly in sight. We're winding the clock back 1 hour now, and we're finally starting our descent into Brisbane as the sun sets over Moreton Bay on a balmy winter's evening here in southeast Queensland. So what better time now to just sit back, relax, and enjoy this stunning sunset arrival into Brisbane over Moreton Bay. Once we arrive, I'll give you my final opinion and verdict on this flight and the post-arrival process into Brisbane. But for now, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the descent into Brisbane. overall, the merits and advantages of flying business class on a short international flight, such as this short hop between Noumea and Brisbane today, should be weighed up against a variety of factors. These most notably include cost, flight duration, and possibly most importantly, aircraft type. In most cases, when flying on a narrow-bodied aircraft, such as in case on a Qantas 737, passengers should expect something more accustomed to premium economy on an international flag carrier, which is certainly a comfortable step up from economy, but neither comparable to long-haul international business class operated by wide-body aircraft. This expectation turned out to be very much in line with the experience on this flight. For us, this flight offered the benefit of premium access in Noumea, where it was really great to see the Caledonia Lounge. It was certainly more personalised service, reasonably good dining, and pretty good drink selection, which is obviously an improvement over economy. Obviously, I got a more comfortable seat with better legroom, but to be honest, the seat itself isn't really a mind-blowing upgrade, and it's more of a luxury than a necessity for just a 2-hour and change flight over to Brisbane. So yeah, sure, it was a pleasant upgrade than flying economy, but it probably wouldn't be worth the cash price of sometimes upwards over $1,000, especially when Qantas is already a fully inclusive airline for those flying in economy. But considering I redeemed it as a Qantas Classic Flight reward, initially as economy and then putting in an upgrade for business, it was a pretty reasonable investment really to outlay some points on. So it was really quite an enjoyable experience this afternoon. So we just landed in Brisbane. It's around 5:30 p.m. It's a much busier Brisbane International Airport here this afternoon compared to back in Noumea. Despite quite a busy incoming passenger volume after a few international flights landing in quick succession, including those from the United States, immigration customs processed the relatively big queues quite quickly and efficiently. It probably took around 45 minutes all up to clear customs and immigration, so it wasn't the quickest time through, but considering the horror stories in the media of late, that wasn't too bad, I thought. This also included extra checks in place over Australia's concerns about the foot and mouth disease, meaning I played it safe, declaring shoes and other objects had been in contact with farms or wilderness areas in New Caledonia and New Zealand, which were expected and given a quick clean up by customs. But yeah, no dramas here. With my bag coming out around middle of the pack, I couldn't really observe any priority that had been tagged to my luggage, so there's no real perks to flying business class in this regard on this occasion. This is probably a trend I tend to now notice across several Qantas business class flights, so possibly saying Qantas can improve on here for their premium passengers. Thanks very much for joining me on this short hop between Noumea in New Caledonia and Brisbane in southeast Queensland on this short flight back to Australia this afternoon. If you'd like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a subscribe, hit the like button and the bell button to be the first to know of all my upcoming flight reviews and other destination theme content, that sort of stuff. But in the meantime, feel free to visit my website at aussiejetsetter.com.au, where you'll see all the latest flight reviews, destination guides, lounge reviews, industry news, frequent flyer hacks, and more. I'll also put a link to my socials, such as Facebook, in the description below, so feel free to check out that as well. But until next time, safe travels wherever that might take you, and thanks very much for watching again.